Are Enoch in heaven? This is an alternative view of the verses from Genesis chapter 4 and 5 and the epistle to the Hebrews. First, we need to have this verse in mind. It is very important for the whole study, where Christ said in John chapter 3 verse 13, "And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven." We will start by looking into Genesis chapter 4 and 5. And throughout this study we'll be using 3 Bibles and 2 concordances. We will be using King James Bible, the Greek Septuagint translated into English by Brenton, and then the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, which is very close to the Septuagint, but has a concordance. These 2 chapters of Genesis are telling us twice about a person named Enoch, and which sons he begot. This is not a normal thing for us to be told twice from one chapter to the next. But there is a reason for this. And in this study we will look a bit further into Cain and Seth's bloodlines. We will see how Genesis chapter 4 is telling us about Enoch from Cain's bloodline, and in chapter 5 it will tell us the same things about Enoch, but this time it is not mentioning whose seed Enoch is under. And as we look into these 3 Bibles and 2 concordances, we can see that it is possible that the word translated does not mean being taken up to heaven, but instead changed from Cain's to Seth's bloodline. Let's get into the scriptures. When we look at Genesis chapter 4 verse 17 to 18, we can see that both the King James Bible and the Septuagint agrees that Enoch was under Cain's bloodline. The names of his sons differs a bit between them, but that is not important. Enoch begot Gadad, Malaleel, Methuselah and Lamech. Now, this is where it gets interesting. In Genesis chapter 5 verse 21 to 24, we can see it is talking about the same Enoch, as the names of his sons are the same, but there is a big difference between the King James Bible and the Septuagint here. We can see that King James say that Enoch walked with God, and that God took him, while the Septuagint tells us that he was well-pleasing to God, and therefore God translated him. We need to look further into the word, translated, which we also see in Hebrews 11, in a verse talking about Enoch. And therefore I find it strange that King James Bible doesn't mention this word, when it is found in the New Testament, and is important to connect those 2 verses. Let's see the verse in Hebrews. Chapter 11 verse 5 says, "By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him, for before his translation he had this testimony, that he pleased God." So we clearly see the word translated, and that he was well-pleasing to God, just like we saw before in the Septuagint. Now, let's look up the word translated in Strong's Concordance. We can see that the word G3346 means to transpose, as in 2 things, one of which is put in place of the other. Keep the word transpose in mind for later. It means to transfer, or to change, and to fall away or desert from one person or thing to another. We will also look up the next word called translation in Strong's Concordance. Here we can see that the word G3331 also means to transfer from one place to another, and to commit a change of things instituted or established. Now, let's go back to Genesis 5 verse 24 in the Septuagint, where it is using the same word translated as in Hebrews, which we just saw means changed, transferred or transposed, which we can see in the Apostolic Bible Polyglot. The Apostolic Bible Polyglot has a concordance if you use the Windows application called eSword. And we will look this word up here as well. We can see from the Apostolic Bible Polyglot that it is using the exact same word G3346, which we just saw before means to transpose and change, and to fall away or desert from one person or thing to another. We can also look a bit further into the concordance of the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, which is also called ABP+. We can see that it tells us that the word transposed means to transfer, that is literally transport, by implication, exchange, reflexively change sides, or figuratively pervert, to carry over, change, remove, translate or to turn. We can also see that the word G3346 derives from two other words. And that is G3326, which tells us that the word means a primary preposition, often used adverbially, properly denoting accompaniment, amid, local or casual, modified variously according to the case, genitive case association, or accusative case succession, with which it is joined. But also from G5087, which says, a prolonged form of a primary word, which is used only as an alternate in certain tenses. To place, in the widest application, literally and figuratively. Let's jump back to Hebrews 11 again, where we can see that in verse 4, 5, 7, 8 and 11 it is talking about Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham and Sarah. And we can see what is common for them all is written in verse 13, that they all died in faith. Let's look into verse 13. We will look up the word G599 in Strong's Concordance. And here we can see that it means to die. Of the natural death of man. Or of eternal death, to be subject to eternal misery in hell. And that is what these people mentioned in Hebrews 11 did. They died the natural death of man, but they died in faith, and therefore are not subject to eternal misery in hell, as they will be part of the first resurrection at Christ's second coming.